When the alarm started ringing, everyone was running around in panic. But 67-year-old crossing guard Jim Murphy calmly stopped, took a breath, and spoke into his radio. "This is Security Post 1. I have the perimeter secured." That moment, everyone wondered, who is this man? Jim Murphy had been working as a crossing guard at Lincoln Elementary School for 27 years. Every morning at 7:30, he'd stand at his corner and safely guide children across the street. He was a quiet, humble man, 67 years old, gray-haired, always dressed, neat and clean. The kids called him Mr. Murphy. Teachers knew him, but didn't talk much with him. To everyone, he was just the school crossing guard. But Jim had a past that nobody knew about. The way he moved, his posture, how he observed his surroundings. Everything was different. As if he'd spent years protecting very important places, serving in very critical missions. And that day, when the school alarm went off, Jim Murphy's true identity was about to be revealed. That day, everyone would understand who this old crossing guard really was. Hello, welcome to The Last Stand. Have you ever thought that a teacher or school employee from your childhood was someone special to you? After listening to this story, please share your thoughts in the comments. Jim Murphy left home every morning at 6:45. Brown pants, white shirt, reflective vest. Always the same clothes, always the same routine. The intersection in front of Lincoln Elementary School was his responsibility for 27 years. At 7:15, he'd take his position, prepare his stop sign, and wait for the children to arrive. But Jim's way of waiting was different. He didn't just watch the road, he constantly scanned his surroundings. Which car had been parked for how long? What unfamiliar faces were around? Who was acting different than usual? Nobody noticed these habits, because Jim was very skilled at it. Where this habit came from, nobody could tell. But for Jim, this was completely natural behavior. That morning was like every other day. Children were starting to come to school. Jim knew them all. Little Lisa always came with her mom, Tommy on his bike, Maya on the school bus. But something caught his attention. Across from the school, a blue sedan had been parked for 20 minutes. Engine running, a man sitting inside. He was acting like he was talking on the phone, but Jim had noticed he was actually watching the school. Interesting, he thought to himself. In 27 years, he'd seen many cars like this. Most were harmless. But Jim still made a mental note. License plate number, time, driver's appearance. During lunch break, Jim would check the schoolyard. Of course, this wasn't an official duty. Just habit. Were there any damages to the fence? Were emergency exits clear? Were security cameras working? Cleaning lady Maria would smile at him. "Jim, are you the school principal or what? Why do you check everything so carefully?" Jim would just shrug. Habit, Maria, just habit. But Maria didn't know that the things Jim checked weren't random. Perimeter security, access points, escape routes, communication lines. These were basic procedures that came naturally to him from somewhere in his past. New teacher Miss Jennifer Hayes had started to be curious about Jim. She was 28, fresh out of college. She was observing Jim's behavior. "There's something strange about this man," she thought. "The way he moves, his posture, how he talks, like he's former police or military." One day she got the courage to ask, "Mr. Murphy, did you work in security before?" Jim paused. "Why do you ask, Jennifer?" "I don't know, just a feeling. You seem like you know these things." Jim smiled. "I just like being careful, kiddo. That's all." But Jennifer's instincts weren't wrong. Monday morning, October 18th, everything started differently than usual. Jim had taken his position at 7:15, but something was off. That blue sedan was there again. This time in a different spot, but the same man was inside. Jim leaned into his radio and called the school secretary. "Carol, do you have any visitors this morning?" "No, Jim. Why do you ask?" "A man seems to be watching the school. I've been seeing him for 3 days. Carol got worried. What should we do?" "Don't do anything for now. Just be careful." Jim's instincts were sounding alarms. Years of experience made him sense danger from far away. At 9:30, the school alarm started ringing. It was a lockdown alarm. When Jim turned on his radio, he heard Carol's panicked voice. "Jim, a man is trying to get into the school. We've locked the doors, but..." Jim's entire body went into autopilot. Years of training kicked in automatically. He spoke into his radio. "This is Security Post 1. I have the perimeter secured." At that moment, teachers and children looked at him. What was this tone of voice? Where did this authority come from? Jim moved quickly, but there was no panic in him. On the contrary, he was very calm and calculated. He was doing what he'd done thousands of times before. First, he secured the perimeter. He directed the children to the safe area behind the school. Then he initiated emergency protocol. "Jennifer," he called to the young teacher, "take the children to the gymnasium. Lock the doors from inside. Nobody goes out." "But Mr. Murphy." "Go now. No arguments." Jennifer's eyes widened. This voice, this authority. Who was this man? As Jim approached the school building, he saw the man getting out of the blue sedan. He had something in his hand, but Jim couldn't see clearly what it was. Years of experience kicked in. Was the man dangerous? Armed? What were his intentions? His training told him. Assess, approach, act. Evaluate, approach, take action. He analyzed the man's behavior. His movements were uncoordinated, panicked, probably had mental issues. Not a professional threat, but still dangerous. Jim intervened as the man tried to enter the school. But he didn't use weapons or violence. Instead, he used another method that came from years of experience. "Sir," he called out. His voice was calm but authoritative. The man stopped and looked at him. "I need you to stop right there. Let's talk." The man looked confused. Who are you?" "I'm security." "What's your name?" What the man had in his hand turned out to be a toy gun, but Jim had known this from the beginning. Experienced eyes could immediately distinguish real threats. Jim had dealt with such situations for many years. People with mental issues, confusing situations, sensitive interventions. He started talking to the man. He kept his voice low, didn't make sudden movements, showed that he wasn't a threat. "What brought you here today?" The man started telling his story. Former student, struggling with difficulties, coming to school seeking help. But he'd chosen the wrong method. Jim calmed him down, waited for police, got the situation under control. When the incident was over, school Principal Roberts came to Jim. "Jim, how did you do that? Such a professional intervention." Jim hesitated. It was time to say what he hadn't told anyone for 27 years. "I served 25 years in Air Force Security Police, Principal Roberts." Roberts' jaw dropped. "Air Force? You never mentioned that." "I don't like talking much. But today it was necessary." Jim started telling his story. He'd served in Air Force Security Police from 1976 to 2001. Protected nuclear facilities, provided security at air bases, served in critical missions. "Why did you become a school crossing guard?" Roberts asked. "When I retired, I wanted a peaceful job. But protecting children, this is also a kind of security work." Roberts understood. For 27 years, Jim wasn't just a crossing guard. He was a guardian. He was the protector of children. The news spread quickly. When Jim Murphy's Air Force Security Police background was learned, the entire school community was shocked. Parents, teachers, children, everyone started looking at him with different eyes. "So that's why you were always so careful," said Maria. Young teacher Jennifer apologized. "My instinct was right. There really was something different about you." Jim remained humble. "I just did my job." Principal Roberts organized a meeting. He called all school personnel. "For 27 years, we had a hero living among us, and we didn't know," he said. They researched Jim's Air Force service records. 25-year service record, multiple commendations, outstanding service. "Jim, you're not just a crossing guard. You're the guardian of this school." Jim's eyes welled up. The service he'd quietly performed for 27 years was finally being recognized. The best reaction came from the children. Little Lisa ran up and hugged Jim. "Mr. Murphy, are you a real hero?" Jim knelt down to Lisa's level. "No, sweetie, I just care about your safety." "But the police praised you." "Because I did the right thing. You're all very precious." Tommy also came over. "Were you really in the Air Force?" "Yes, Tommy, for 25 years. "Wow, and now you're our crossing guard." Jim smiled. This reaction was worth more than all the recognition ceremonies. The incident reached city management. Mayor Patricia Stevens wanted to meet with Jim. "Mr. Murphy, for 27 years you volunteered this service for our children's safety. And now we're learning that you're actually—" "I just did my job, Mayor Stevens." "No, what you did was beyond work. This dedication, this service, our community owes you so much." Mayor Stevens decided to organize a special recognition ceremony for Jim. When the news reached local veteran organizations, the reaction was very strong. American Legion Post 45 Commander Richard Torres called. "Jim, why didn't you ever come to us? You're our brother." Jim was surprised. I'm not very social. You don't have to be social, but you're one of us. 25 years Air Force Security Police. You're a legend." Torres invited Jim to the weekly veteran meeting. Jim would meet with the veteran community for the first time in 27 years. The most surprising reaction came from the Air Force. Local news agencies had spread the story, and Jim's old friends found him. His former partner, Staff Sergeant Michael Rodriguez, called. "Jim Murphy, I've been looking for you for 20 years. Mike, is that really you?" "Of course it's me. I saw you on the news. You're still the same Jim, still protecting people." Mike told about Jim's service record in the Air Force. Outstanding performance, leadership, integrity. You weren't just a good cop, Jim. You were exceptional. The ceremony organized by Mayor Stevens attracted great interest. It was held at Lincoln Elementary School. Children, parents, teachers, city officials, veteran organizations. Principal Roberts opened the speech. "For 27 years we knew Jim Murphy, but we learned who he really was this week." Mayor Stevens presented Jim with a special plaque, "Outstanding Community Service and Dedication." American Legion Torres' speech was emotional. "Jim, you're an Air Force Security Police. Once a cop, always a cop. Welcome home, brother." After the ceremony ended, they asked Jim, "What will you do now?" Jim smiled. "Tomorrow morning I'll be here again at 7:30. The children are waiting for me. But now everyone knows who you are. That doesn't change anything. I'm still their crossing guard. And that's enough for me." Principal Roberts' eyes welled up. "Jim, you're our hero." "No," said Jim. "I just love my job, and protecting these children. That's the greatest honor for me." If you think stories of such quiet heroes should be told, don't forget to subscribe to the Last Stand channel. We'll continue to bring you more veteran stories every day. Jim Murphy still works as a crossing guard at Lincoln Elementary School today. But he's not just a crossing guard anymore. He's a mentor, a guardian, a legend. Every morning at 7:30, he takes his position and safely guides children across the street. And he knows that what he learned in 25 years of Air Force Security Police, he now uses to protect children. Once a cop, always a cop, say his old friends. And Jim Murphy proves that's true every day.